and also fired the right waist gun.
The which gun? The which gun?
The 40, I have to forget my mouth.
It's okay.
Firing the right waist gun, which is on the right, in the middle of the plane, and a little bit south of that.
What was boot camp like?
Oh, boot camp, we had it pretty easy compared to, say, the guys that went into the service and went to really a boot camp, or I don't know what they called it now, but it was the longest jaunt that we took was 7 miles, and we had breaks in that, like the poor Marines that shove them off out there and they'd be gone for hours. It was a lot of fun at the time, and what are you going to do when you're 18 years old and you're in the peak of health and they send you someplace like that?
Where was your boot camp?
Boot camp was Shepherd Field, Texas, Wichita Falls.
How long did you have to go through that for?
Pardon?
How long did you have to go through boot camp for?
Well, we didn't go as long as they wanted because they had an opening at college for us, and we went there. I'd say a month, if that much.
Is that a long boot camp or that's a short boot camp?
Oh, this would have been a short
That
one.
was a short one. Where were you first stationed after boot camp was over and you were
Went to Washington State, Pullman College.
Okay. How long were you there for?
Oh, I was there probably about a month. Spent my first Christmas there. It was not really that difficult, the boot camp. A lot of people thought it was, but it really wasn't.
What did you have to do other than the 7-mile run? What did boot camp?
Well, they gave us tests on stuff, tests on armament, showing us how to use the radio, stuff like that. So see, the radio was not same place as the armament school. It was completely separate. And we had some tough times, like out in March most of the day, and it was hotter than hell. And these guys would just fall down, and we'd say, "You better get up before the sergeant gets here. He'll have you run another month, 7 miles." It really was tough for some guys that had never done any kind of work like that or exercise. But other than that, I didn't find it too difficult. I could fall down, and in a small time, less than 5 minutes, I was asleep. That part of it was different. We didn't have a very comfortable bed. Did a lot of floor mopping, window washing, just stuff to keep you busy. And lots of movies. Saw all kinds of movies, training films, health, education, the military service, etc. I thought it was a great lot of fun myself. I don't think some guys thought it was quite fun though.
How many different places did you serve in? Or were you stationed in?
Stationed at Barksdale Field, Shreveport, Washington State College at Pullman, Washington, Santa Ana at pre-flight, washed out of cadets about December of, that would have still been 43, and then when I washed out, that was a sad time for me, so I really wanted to fly. I didn't know, of course, I was going to be flying, and it was a rough time. I can remember one time we were in town, a couple of buddies of mine, and I put on a hat that I had when I was at Washington State. Well, it was a cadet hat, and since I wasn't a cadet anymore, I was not supposed to be wearing it. The sergeant caught me in town. He said, "You know better than this. why are you doing it? I said, well, it's a good hat, and I might as well wear it. He said, well, don't wear it here. Then when we got on a crew, we could wear almost what we wanted. 90 mission mangle hats. Looked like he'd slept in them. In fact, one time my pilot, we were walking down the flight line going somewhere. He said, this looks like a good place. He reached in his pocket, pulled out an officer's hat, the ones that you could fold completely over each other. Truck was coming along, he tossed it under the truck. I said, what are you doing, man? Well, he said, it has to be looked at. He said, you can't have a 90 mission mangle unless you have something that looks like a hat. We had a good crew, it was a lot of fun. And from there I went on to, where did I go? Went to radio school in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I was there quite a while. Also, though, I went through from then on, I was a sergeant. No, I was a corporal. And I finally made sergeant when we went to the next base. My pilot had to say so on whether we got promoted or not. So if you liked your pilot and he liked you, you had it made. I was going to tell you the rest of the bases, you know. I went from Sioux Falls. Where did I go? Oh, I went to Columbus. No, I went to, can't remember the name of the field, but it was in South Dakota. From South Dakota, I went down to another field in the south. Well, these things are hard for me to remember.
Understandable.
My short memory is taking a real beating. I can remember things way, way back.
Yeah.
And I'll see somebody and I can't remember their name. That's embarrassing. And I ended up down in the south. I went to quite a few bases in the south. But I went to Sioux Falls, I said. And then we went and picked up a plane and flew down to, it'll come to me on the way home.
Is it Louisiana, Dan?
What?
Louisiana?
Yeah, I went to Shreveport, but I went to B-17s before I went
Biloxi?
to Biloxi. Yeah, there were several bases down there. They moved us around all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I probably was close to 10 bases altogether and never got overseas.
You didn't?
No.
Oh.
Well, I shouldn't say that. We got overseas to Havana, Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people, yeah, I was overseas. Where's that? Havana, Cuba? No, you weren't. Yes, I was.
What'd you do in Cuba?
Pardon?
What were you doing in Cuba?
We went down, flew our own plane down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were issued an actual airplane. We were a one-man Air Force. And we had a chance to go to Cuba or New York City. We decided we would rather go to Cuba. So that's how I ended up down there. I was there before Castro. Fidel, he stayed a long time.
Mm.
Yeah, that's about sums it up. I went to a lot of training. We went through training on B-17s 3 times. So we were prepared to go overseas 3 different times and never did.
How come you didn't end up going overseas? They didn't need your unit, or?
Well, they just didn't. No, we were in a unit, a vast amount of, I don't know how many people it were, but I think they just overplanned. We had training so much that we could. I think everybody on the ship could have flown that particular one. My pilot, he was a real great guy. He wanted us all to be ready if we did go overseas. Something happened, and something did happen to a lot of guys. They never made it back. Some of them made it back just shot to pieces, crash landed in the what is that ocean there? Anyway, that's where Glenn Miller, the band leader, went down, was the English Channel. And we were going to fly our own plane over there and go to a base where it'd be permanently assigned, but it never happened. So, well,
Did you ever learn how to pilot, or you?
yeah,
Yeah.
well, I took pilot lessons when I was at Sioux Falls. Or no, when I was at Washington State. Yeah, he wanted us all to be able to at least land it or take off, because those are the two most dangerous parts of flying an airplane.
Yeah.
It's not the crashes. There are crashes, but not as many as you would think. Yeah, I probably had 5 or 6 hours past my original amount. You had to have 8. Yeah, I think you had to have 8 hours to get your pilot's license. So he wanted everybody, except the tallest guys, couldn't get into a ball turret. That was a little difficult.
What was your favorite base that you were on,
Favorite base?
if you had one?
I didn't think of it at the time. Oh, I imagine it'd probably been Gulfport, Mississippi. Although I didn't like the South that much, but yeah, we had a good base there. Last time I was back there on a Air Force convention with my boss, General McDaniel. He asked me about this place, and he had never been there before. And I said, well, I was here. I was in about every foot of this base itself. I guess that would be. We liked it there because we could get to New Orleans. We could get to Mobile, Alabama. We'd go down and spend the whole weekend down there. We had our pass. Once I got on a crew, we had our pass with us, and we could go anywhere that we could get there and get back. Pilot used to say, "You guys don't run out on me now." He said, "I'll be a second lieutenant the rest of my life." Yeah, we had a good understanding among. We had a co-pilot that was. He was a little jumpy, I think, sometimes. He didn't know what to do with all of us enlisted men. But yeah, to sum it all up, we had some really good times. I've heard from these guys all. How long? Last 50 years. I heard from them after we got out of the service, and I saw two of them. I've seen two of them other than the guys that I mentioned that we took off. We didn't get to New York, but we got to places like Florida. I also flew in Florida in the deadly thing out there supposedly sucks the planes under, whatever it's called. We flew over that all the time. We'd make triangular cuts clear down by Cuba and then come back. Yeah, he wanted us all to be pretty well trained, at least how to do that. There's been lots of guys that made it back because of their crew member that managed to get the plane back on keel and made it back to England. But we weren't that lucky.
What was a typical day like for you when you were in the service?
Well, when I was flying, it was up at 3 o'clock, get cleaned up, go to the mess hall, have breakfast, and report to the flight line. And there we didn't always fly the same plane every day. I don't know why they didn't do that, because you get very familiar with all the parts of the plane when you're flying it every day. Let's see. What are you doing, Tiffany?
How long would you fly for on the flying days? Or just
Pardon?
how long would you fly for? Or just pretty much all day you'd fly?
Well, sometimes we didn't get back till 10 o'clock that night. Depends on what kind of a mission they gave us. We flew missions just exactly like they did, you know, the guys that were on combat duty. I'd like to have seen that one mission that they flew over 1,000 planes that bombed Germany.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the name of the town was. That must have been an imposing sight. 1,000 of them. Oh yeah, we did all kinds of stuff like practice bomb runs with bags of flour. The pilot had us doing all kinds of stuff. Taking over for somebody who had been hurt was one way of doing it. My navigator, I learned how to use navigation equipment. That was one thing. Of course, I never used it after I got out.
How long did you serve for?
I served from August 1943, August to, let's see, no, that wasn't August, October of 43. And then 3 years and something. Cut it close. Yeah. And another thing that we did that was quite interesting. We went out in the desert there, Yuma, Arizona. That was the other base I couldn't think of. And of all times to go there, where did they send us there? In the hot summer months. And we went out to gunnery school, way out in the desert where we couldn't hit anybody else. There we learned how to handle all of these various guns that we'd be using if we were on a crew. Let's see. Well, I said we did all kinds of class work on Air Force procedure, history, about everything that you could think of. They introduced us to it. They introduced us to a lot of lousy places too.
And what rank did you end up leaving the Air Force as?
Well, I left the Air Force as a buck sergeant,
Mm-hmm.
but then I got out and I went back in the reserves, and I was in the reserves for almost 28 years. And that included a couple, 3 trips to Europe. We flew our own planes over there too. Had a lot of fun trips around where we were. Went to London several times. Well, we did everything from manning poster booths at the local fairs, state fairs, county fairs, and like that. I grew up down there in San Diego, so there were a lot of places to see that I hadn't seen. And all in all, I'd say I had a good life. I really did.
Mm-hmm.
I can thank myself that I made it back because a lot of them didn't. Although we were lucky, we only lost one guy from my high school class. And there were like 400 people in that class. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
At least that's what everybody seems to think.
So you finally made it overseas after you left the Air Force.
Pardon?
So you finally made it overseas after you left the Air
Yeah.
Force. When you first joined, how difficult was it to leave family and friends to go serve the country?
Oh, it wasn't that difficult. I was a sports-minded person, so everywhere I got, I tried to go to as many things like that as I could.
How did you keep in touch with family and friends when you were gone? When you were
Mail,
mail?
yeah. Sent a few postcards from Europe too.
What would you say is your favorite part? Was your favorite part about being in the service?
Flying,
Yeah.
yeah.
What was it like to actually be able to fly? Not just sit in the plane, but to actually be able to fly.
Well, it just was an exhilaration. Have you ever surfed?
No.
Okay. I can't tell you then without, well, I can tell you, but I don't know if you'll get my lingo. As a surfer, you eventually learn how to slide across the wave. The wave boils up, and you learn to cross it this way. And the moment that you cross that point, feels like somebody just kicks you in the rear end. And away you go. Well, I had one, let's see, Steve, did he surf? He didn't surf, did he? Philip did, my oldest boy. Yeah, he liked surfing. And I still surfed off of La Jolla and Escondido and all those places down in there for a long time till I finally just, that board was too heavy to pick up and carry. And I've been to several trips with the Air Force to Hawaii. So I got that opportunity to travel. Yeah, I just had I didn't bring my wallet either, I just realized. I didn't surf only to the point where if they were over 10 feet, I didn't surf. And that crazy guy recently off somewhere in California surfed one 60 to 70 feet high. That's kind of unbelievable, isn't it?
It's a pretty big wave.
Yeah, it is. You don't want to have it boil over on you, I'll tell you.
And that's your comparison to flying?
Well,
The exhilaration?
you could compare surfing to skiing, maybe, because you're not held on to anything.
Mm.
At least in surfing, you're not. I would say that that's probably the most experiences that's closely akin to that. At least I did, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then these girls here, their mother and grandmother, they both surf too. I don't know how much. Did you ever get on a board?
Focus on her.
What would you say your least favorite part of service was?
Oh, probably going on long 10-hour flights. That's a long time to sit up there.
Mm-hmm.
You can stand up, but you can't stand up forever. I would say that probably was.
So flying was the favorite, and the long flying was the least favorite.
Well, I think the actual flying.
Yeah.
I could get that wheel in my hands and do things.
Mm. And do you still keep in touch with any of the guys from your unit?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just lost one of them about 3 months ago. All the rest of them, to my knowledge, are all still alive.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard from my pilot for probably 20 years, though. He was older than me by a little bit. Yeah, we were all 18 through 21. Here they stuck a 21-year-old and gave him a B-17 and said, "Here, fly away."
What is your first memory as a military man?
First memories. When we got to Shepherd Field, Texas, and they started yelling, "All right, get off of these trains and get to work." Yeah, they weren't very rough on us, though, compared to guys like the Marine Corps, the commandos, and guys like that. We had it really pretty easy. And most of the other guys that you'd meet from other branches of service say, "Yeah, how come you guys get all this stuff? We don't get anything." Of course, they were learning with different equipment, etc.
I know you didn't see any combat, but what would you say your favorite weapon that you were either trained to use or that you knew about would have been?
Probably 50 caliber. That's what we had on both sides of the waist, right waist and left waist. That was a wicked weapon. They're still using it.
Yeah.
I just saw a magazine the other day, a current military magazine, and they got a picture of a guy up on the back of a truck with this 50 caliber. Yeah, it was a very, very dangerous weapon.
Was that the weapon you used?
Yeah.
Yeah. How long did it take to be able to learn how to control that?
Not very, because we weren't used to a gun sight and all that stuff. We just had iron sights, and you just lead that plane and start firing.
Let's see. I don't do that. Did you lose any? You may have touched on it, but did you lose anyone from your unit while you were in service, or no? Because you didn't go over, right?
Yeah, I did. It was at first school I went to. First thing I went into the Air Force. And he lived right next to me, and they were flying B-26s. That was a Martin Marauder, and their squadron lost like 3/4 of them on one raid. They were fast, but they weren't fast enough to get away from the fast German ones. That was, I think there was 2 guys, and one of them I knew pretty well. They just went over and never came back. And of course, when we took off, didn't have any way of knowing where to get a hold of people that knew them. That's an unfortunate thing that happens.
What kind of effect did that have on you when you found that out?
Well, it made me upset since he'd been a bunkmate. And you just have to put it out of your head and go on.
When you did get out, how difficult was it adapting back to civilian life?
I didn't have any difficulty.
No.
No. I was only out for the rest of the summer and started college. So I had something to keep me busy.
After the Air Force, you said you joined the reserves. Was that an immediate, or you took time off and then you?
No, I was in the reserves, but I wasn't an active reservist. There's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Active reservist gets paid for the time that they spend on active duty. But no, I didn't. I knew what I wanted to do. I had offers like go to Bikini and drop the atomic bomb, and I thought, no, I don't want to do that. I figured if I'd made it through, I wasn't going to take any more chances. There were a lot of guys that did that. In fact, I think my navigator, I think he went to that Bikini thing. And what they would do then is, if they won the contention, whatever it was, then they would send them to this school, which was down closer to where Bikini was. And I think he was the only one. Well, I shouldn't say that. My pilot, Matt, he did stay in. He became a major, and he didn't have he only had a high school education. He said, "This is really crazy." He said, "Here I'm only out of high school a short time, and I'm in charge of this great big bird here."
Now you were still in the Air Force when the war actually ended, right?
Yeah.
What were you doing when you found out that the war was over?
Oh, we were at Avon Park, Florida. I think they just, all the people in the little tiny town, put that base way out there in the middle of the swamps. I think they had bells and everything, people shot off guns and everything else. That's how we learned it. And the funny part was that we were all going to go over, have a beer and celebrate. When we got over there, the place was all closed up. They were over celebrating someplace else. That was kind of different. Then there were the guys that were in New York area. They went to New York City and celebrated.
So that was a that was a good day.
Yeah, it was a good day. You weren't old enough to. I didn't think you were.
Not even close. that was quite some time ago.
Yeah, it was. A couple of years ago. Boy, was it ever.
Did you receive any medals while you were there?
The back of you. Oh, where did you put those?
Oh.
Do you want me to put these over
Yeah,
here?
sure.
When I retired from the Air Force
Mm-hmm.
as a, oh, let's see what they call it. Forgot that already. Chief Master Sergeant. I got promoted again before I got out. In fact, I got another promotion. I haven't ever received the papers on it yet. To the highest one, which was that, a Chief Senior Master Sergeant. Anyway, it's the top rank that an enlisted man can make in the service. I've got stripes coming out of my ears. That there is a Chief Master Sergeant. That must be a Senior Chief. I don't know. I've been out now for so long I can't even remember those things. They're not important anymore what I make anyway.
Would you do it again if you had the chance?
Pardon?
Would you do it again?
Sure.
Yeah? Liked it that much?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I didn't have the prospect of a job teaching, because that's what I went into, I became a teacher. Yeah, I would. I saw a good part of the world, and met a lot of nice guys. As I said, the ones on my crew, they all stayed together. If not in person, we've been there by radio or telephone or something. No, I think you make what you make out of it. Some guys go in there with a chip on their shoulder and they never do make it. Troublemakers. Probably if you found out they were troublemakers clear back into high school or junior high at least. Yeah, I think it's an opportunity for a kid, especially today. I don't know if they could even get in today because of the economic system.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, something like that, you can learn a career that'll carry on through until you retire from that. 'Cause I retired, I retired from the Air Force. I retired from teaching. And I retired from, what else am I retired from? Well, I've got 3 retirements. So I worked for it though.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't hand it to me. Yeah, we had to keep up correspondence courses with the Air Force. I'm sure the Army does the same thing. Coast Guard too. Yeah, I was in every branch of service except the Coast Guard and the Marine Corps. Tried them all until I got it right.
Now we talked about what your first memory had been. What would you say that the most memorable time or the most memorable moment would have been for you?
Well, I think when I met General Doolittle from the raid on Tokyo, we had him out to our Air Force what they call a dine out, and he and Mrs. Doolittle came all the way down from Northern California he was at the time like 60-some years old. He drove a little bug down, and I spent some time. And I personally got to talk to him about the book.
We can do that later, Dad. Just talk about that right
Trying to think of the book, where it is, but I don't know where it is. Yeah, I was meeting him and met a lot of other veterans, most all of them from active duty. They had been places that I had never been. But I would say, my meeting with General Doolittle was the high point of my career.
Did you ever wish that you were able to get into combat?
Oh, that's a funny thing to answer. I think you train knowing that that's what you trained for and that's where you wanted to be. I don't know. I think it's hidden in the back of your brain somewhere that says, well, you want to go, but you don't want to get killed either. And there, when we first went over there to England, the losses were really bad. One day there was one loss, they had 60 planes from one squadron that were shot down. This is one bunch. Now I think you think about it, but yet you don't think about it. Because there isn't anything you can do anyway when you get to that point. You're not going to, at least I wouldn't, chicken out and say, I went out because I miss my mommy or something.
Did you miss your family?
Yeah, I miss
Yeah.
them. Yeah, I really did. I got home a few times during the war.
Mm-hmm.
Had 2 weeks, several times. No, I don't think you think about it, because if you do, it'll really get you goofed up. Other guys seem to go over there and just fall apart. You know, they can give you all the tests in the world, but see if you're psychological adept at that. But I never really thought about it. We were having too good a time when we weren't on duty.
How long was each day? I know you said that sometimes you would have 10-hour flights, but as far as actually being on duty, how long were you usually on duty each day?
Well, unless we had classes to go to where we were when we were flying, they would put us through courses right down on the flight line. But most of the time we had our passes on our pilot or in our pocket, and we could go wherever we wanted, as long as we thought we could get there and get back in time. There were a lot of guys that went AWOL.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. They would eventually come back and spend the time in jail. I liked to be free and be outside too much. I wouldn't have liked that at all.
Well, the trips you took in the plane, right?
Pardon?
You'd fly places? Or what was your favorite place that you guys went to off duty to go hang out?
Each evening, did you say?
Oh yeah, during the evenings when you'd go take your flights and then you come back. What would you say that your favorite place that you guys used to go to would be?
Probably New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it at some of the places, but I didn't stay there very long. We would go up for, as I said, anywhere from a few hours to 10 hours. And that's all night flying, and that's tough on pilot and co-pilot and navigator, guys like that. Bombardier, you could go without him. Used to tell him, you're just worthless, so just get out of the way. You know, we kidded each other a lot. I think that helped stem off of the homesickness and stuff. after you've been gone for a while, though, you just kind of shove that off to the side and go on with your duty of what you're doing.
What was it like knowing that any moment you could be sent over to be in a fight? I mean, I know you said that it was one of those things that you didn't think about much, but when it did come up and when there were times that you were training, you said you trained 3 times specifically for going over and then you didn't go over. What was it like on those times, like when you knew that there was a very good possibility you'd end up being in a battle in a couple days or in a couple weeks?
They put you through some kind of an indoctrination ceremony when you would get to a new base, if it's overseas. All kinds of stuff. You couldn't take all kinds of things with you. Couldn't take anything that had your picture on it, or your name, etc. And, it was just the routine that you fell into. That, you know, get up in the morning, eat breakfast, get down the flight line, get the plane all prepped, and away you'd go. Sometimes we'd fly by ourselves. Other times we would fly in small formation, like 3. Remember one time we were flying over the Gulf of Mexico, and we ran into some really high swells, and they were coming up not too far beneath the bottom of the plane. It was pretty big. Trying to think of what else I wanted to ask you, now I forgot.
When you were on a plane, when you weren't flying, and you were just doing the training, you had to just stay at the gun. What did you practice on when you were shooting the gun? Just on the mountains, or for shooting for accuracy and to keep yourself trained for that?
We'd go out and have places that build little villages, and we'd go out and come in formation and fire at these little buildings. But that was the only actual firing that we ever went through, was training. We used to go out there and shoot the heck out of the desert.
Were you a good shot?
Well, I did all right. I made sharpshooter on the ground.
With a sniper rifle?
No.
No.
Just, we had, when we would go out to the firing range, we'd fire 50 calibers, 30 calibers, submachine guns, all those things. Learn how to shoot the pistol, automatic, and the regular pistol. When we came out of there, we were pretty hopped up, ready to go. But then we'd get postponed. We would start it in again. Pretty soon we did that three times and still didn't go overseas. I got overseas more times than a lot of guys that were in the regulars.
Mm-hmm. With the reserves, were you ever on active duty?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of that 28 years was active duty. I go for 2 weeks. If it was a convention or something, there at the last where I got out, every time the general went somewhere, I went. So I saw a lot of country that way too.
What was your rank in the reserves?
I forget the name of it. It's this over here, only with one more stripe, the blue and white.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a senior master sergeant, and I was a chief senior master sergeant, and that's as high as you can get. And we had all blue uniforms, shirts that were almost white, but were just a pale blue. Had a billed cap, but practically none of us ever wore them. Those are just a few of the Air Force places I was stationed.
The patches?
Pardon?
The patches at the bottom?
Yeah, the patches, top and the bottom. Yeah, this is a 50 caliber right here. I could really wreak havoc with it hitting anything. You wouldn't want to get hit by a 50 caliber.
No, I wouldn't assume so.
Leave you with a sharp hole in you.
And that was your favorite gun, you said, right? The
Oh,
50
yeah.
cal? Was it because of...
I don't know if you remember when the Somalis were rioting in Africa. Well, it showed these guys, they were running around in jeeps. They had a 50 caliber in the back of the jeep attached to it. These guys are roaming, just looking for trouble. And I guess they did. They got the trouble all right. Trouble is that they were shooting at us.
Was it your favorite gun because of the fact that it's such a big gun?
No, it's just the power that you get your hands on that thing and press those triggers, and man, it really unleashed power.
Seems like a lot of power.
Yeah, it is. The next one up from that would probably be a cannon.
Okay.
And then, of course, they got all kinds of, Army's got all kinds of stuff. We found out at the end of the war that we had two military branches. We had the Air Force and we had the Army. And what did they do with them? They scrapped them all and probably made them back into bullets and guns again.
Is there anything else you want to just talk about?
No, not really. I think we've talked the poor place to death.
I will ask though, at your first base, that was
Shepherd Field,
Texas.
Wichita Falls.
Mm-hmm. Did it take any time getting used to how regimented it was and all that stuff as compared to when...
Well, a little bit, but not really that much. I didn't, I had difficulty sleeping for quite a while. These guys are going in and out, turning lights on and off, talking, playing cards. Some people probably had trouble. I can't remember what people did. I guess they used earplugs. I don't remember ever having that difficulty.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have some nights it was difficult getting to sleep. But shoot, I have that trouble here.
Did you have any difficulty with... Because you had to get up at 3 in the morning, you said, to go do stuff? You didn't have any problems getting up?
No. I was 18 years old then, and I could have whipped a wildcat. I guess I felt that way. No. Never had that problem.
Well, I would like to take the time to thank you for sitting down and telling me all that. It's all pretty interesting, even if you didn't go over into battle. The life of a serviceman seems like it's a hell of a life.
Well, I think you can make it what you want it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a complainer all the time, you'll never get anywhere. Although you see some guys that did make it and wonder how in the world did they ever get promoted.
All right, that's all the questions I have for now. Again, thank you very much for sharing. Appreciate it very
My
much.
pleasure.
And we'll have all this stuff up real soon.
Okay.